Hello, Handler Helpers, it's me, Monster-Handler Tyson, coming to you with something a little bit different. As you may know, we have the MSM Live, where we answer a lot of your burning questions about the monster world, but sometimes we can't get to all of your questions. So I thought, I pick some, and we're just gonna rapid fire answer them right now. Let's get started. Now, the first question is Repetillo and Strombonen related? And the answer is yes, they are. They are distant cousins to each other, very similar to Gajoob and G'day, and we see a lot of similarities in their body structure with multiple limbs and plates of armor all over their body. Now, this leads to the question of if they are related, then they must have a family name, and what is that family name? And I have the answer to that, dear viewer, and their family name is the Armorclade, in reference to their armored plates all over their body, and also clade meaning that they have a common ancestor. Now, I do have a theory on how this lineage kind of works, but I'm gonna save that maybe for an MSM Live, so stay tuned for the next one. The next question is, can Sporo lose or gain the mushrooms that can be found all over its body? And the answer is no. The Shroomites and Sporo come into being at the very same time and are a symbiotic partner to each other, so they are not going anywhere. This next question has been asked by a lot of people, where they're wondering, is Mythical Island even physically real, as it seems it can only be accessed through dreams? And the answer is yes, Mythical Island is physically real, but it exists in the dream space, which can be comparable to Ethereal Island or Magical Sanctum, as they exist in their own pocket dimensions. And it's not accessible through just dreams, it is accessible through dreamcraft, which is a type of magic that the Catalyst can conjure and manipulate and help the mythical monsters travel to Mythical Island. The last question I will be answering today is, what is the Catalyst's that's a hard word to say. Catalysis. What is the Catalyst's cradle made out of, and is it made out of dreamcraft? And the answer there is, we actually don't know what it's made out of. It's made out of some sort of special fiber that we don't exactly know what it is, so maybe in the future we will. And also, it is not made out of dreamcraft, but it is used as a tool to manipulate and use the magic of dreamcraft. All right, Handler Helpers, those are going to be all the questions I'm going to answer for today. We're going to answer a lot more on the next MSM Live, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, actually leave a comment down below of another question you might want me to answer next time on Quick Questions with Tyson, or questions answered by Monster-Handler, trivia answered, no. Monster-Handler Tyson, so smart, no. Well, no. We'll workshop it. Hey, Handler Helpers, it's me, Monster-Handler Tyson, coming to you with another Quick Questions, the show where I answer your questions quickly. Or maybe it's a show where we didn't quite get to your question on MSM Live, or maybe I saw your question on one of our socials and decided to answer it. So in that case, let's get started. Now, our first question is, how much could a Wubbox bench? Wubboxes are incredibly strong thanks to their element of electricity coursing through their robotic veins. Though we haven't been able to put an exact number on what it could lift, we have seen examples of its great feats of strength in the past, most recently when it was able to launch Gobblegord into the Monster World stratosphere in only just a couple seconds. Now, to put that into a human world perspective, it takes about 7.2 million pounds of thrust to get one of our rockets into our stratosphere, and that even takes 8.5 minutes. So imagine Wubbox launching Gobblegord into the Monster World stratosphere in just a couple of seconds. We can only imagine the potential strength that it has. Our next question is, what is a group of reedlings called? And a group of reedlings is called a romp of reedlings. Our next question asks, is there any instances of trouble being energetic, or is it always pretty sleepy? Trouble for the most part is constantly sleepy, and that is thanks to its blubberfly friends always lulling it to sleep with a nice little lullaby. Though its blubberfly friends also need to get some rest, so when they are resting, Trouble will just slink into the living ocean for a nice midnight dip, though when it does that, it is still incredibly tired. Our next question is whether Bookworm's hairbun is sentient or is it purely cosmetic. Bookworm's hairbun is actually not sentient, but it is actually their second mouth. They have evolved this way so they can both read and eat at the same time and not get crumbs on their precious books. It is safe to say that this multi-arm monster is the best multitasker in the monster world. Our next question is, when a monculus eats, where does its treats go? The nutrition is redistributed from the mouth to different parts of the monculus's body through plasmic crocilium that flows over and through it. It's kind of like how a person's bloodstream carries nutrients to different organs in their body. Our final question is, if Epic Glowl is also known as a glorvid, why isn't it just a different monster and a part of the Glowl family? Just as an animal can go by many different names like puma, cougar, or mountain lion, the species itself is still the same. The glorvid name is a reference to the human world family of birds called corvids, which include crows, ravens, and magpies, and the fact that this epic variant is distinct enough in its beak shape to enjoy multiple names. Sort of like how the wobbling mulch is also called the clawed yawper. So, in the end, it depends on who you ask. Alright, Handler Helpers, that concludes episode 2 of Quick Questions with Monster-Handler Tyson. If you have any questions, make sure to comment down below, or really comment in any of our socials, and I will hopefully get to them in the next one. But in the meantime, happy monstering! Hey Handler Helpers, it's me, Monster Handler. 1 second. Oh, okay, I think that's better. Hi, my name is Monster-Handler Tyson, coming to you with another episode of Quick Questions, the show where I answer all your burning questions about the monster world. All of the questions that I'll be answering today were found in the comment section of the last video, so if you have a question that you want to be answered in the future, comment below. But in the meantime, let's get started. Now, our first question is the mask of enchantling a naturally occurring growth, or is it a wood carving from the magical sanctum Titan? Now, both enchantler and enchantling's antlers are naturally occurring, or I guess you can say magically occurring, parts of their anatomy. The monstromantic energies that course within them produce different effects depending on the size of antlers. Those of the enchantler are of such immense size that the glowing symbols don't leave a mark, whereas the much smaller enchantlings can withstand less and become more pockmarked by the glyphs. Our next question is, how powerful can a monster sing? Now, we have observed the monster world for many years now, and there are many examples of the monsters using their music in a very powerful manner. The most notable was back when Sponge blew out their birthday candles and accidentally blew out every light in the monster world, leading to the discovery of Light Island. Though it wasn't the monster's traditional whistle, we can only imagine how powerful a deep breath whistle from Sponge could be. Our next question is, how resistant is Gobblegord? Though there are many monsters that are very durable in the monster world, Gobblegord is right up there with the toughest. Though they may not look it, Gobblegords are actually completely fireproof and their bodies are nearly invincible. They've evolved this way as they are extremely accident prone and live in very flammable environments. Hence why they are able to re-enter the monster world stratosphere with barely a scratch. Our next question is, was Wobox inspired by the dipsters when making mulch? Dipsters have been around in the monster world a lot longer than originally believed, so it is quite possible that the Wobox used them as inspiration when designing mulch. It is unclear of how awake and aware the Wobox was when it was powered down in the underground vault, but the dipsters are subterranean, so maybe they see them as an old neighbor. Now, our next question is, how does a clamble eat without damaging its eyes, or does it act more like a plant and absorb energy from the sun? Clambles are extremely neat because they have multiple ways how to eat food. Like some species of frogs in the human world, clambles can actually use muscles around their eyes to push traditional food like treats from the bakery down their throats. But clambles can also act like a plant and absorb energy from the monster world sun. Its top symbol acts as an organic solar panel and can absorb 20% more energy than regular plants. Now, our next question is, did Strombonen or Strombone think of Deej when imagining Crunchy? Humans, when they dream, have to use faces that they have seen before in real life, whereas a monster's subconscious is much more powerful and can come up with original ideas. That said, we are fairly confident that Strombone was reminded by Deej's iconic head speaker and ice boomboxes when dreaming up the dream mythical companion Crunchy for Strombonen. Now, our next question is, do incisors ever get toothaches? And the answer is no, they never get toothaches or really any trouble with their teeth, as their saliva acts as a natural toothpaste. And so when they clash their teeth together and they wiggle, they're almost always brushing their teeth. So it is safe to say that they have the most healthy teeth in the monster world. Our final question today is, can a Yule's antlers be damaged like human world deer? And the answer is yes, they can, but that happens very rarely. Also, like human world deer, they typically shed their antlers between January and March, which is why we don't really see them that often around that time, because they are very self-conscious about their appearance. So we are pretty lucky that the Festival of Yay is in December. You know what? I think I want to answer one more question, because a lot of you have been wondering what I saw in that vision in the 3.8 kickoff video. Now, what I saw was this Hello, Handler Helpers, it's me, Monster-Handler Tyson, coming to you with an extra special Quick Questions episode. Instead of answering questions sent in from the community, I will be occasionally doing a lore deep dive into a particular topic. For our first episode of Quick Questions Deep Dive, I will be exploring the relationship between the monster world and the human world, and the nature of dimensional travel, seeing how the new mythical might be raising a few eyebrows. Firstly, the Stablo-Mahu. The Stablo-Mahu. The Stablo-Mahuja. You know what? Firstly, the Stablo-Mahuja, or the World Tree, is what holds together the big blue bubble multiverse. The sap that seeps through the tree, which can harden to form amber, is what is ultimately responsible for the binding magic of the trees, and which ultimately allows interdimensional travel to be possible within the World Tree. Oftentimes, a tree or something resembling a tree is what calls back and resonates with the original tree. In a metaphysical sense, the separate worlds of the Stablo-Mahuja can be compared to cuttings of the main tree. There are dozens of dimensions within the World Tree, but those that share the strongest connections with the monster world are the prison dimension where the globes come from, the Thumpyverse, self-explanatory, the realm of Thingia, where Fling-a-Thing is set, Helmoth, where Power Core takes place, the home dimension of both Asveld and Caligan, where Dark Incursion and Forgon are based, Tubulopolis of the Wrecking Squad fame, and of course, the human world. Though the World Tree does allow interdimensional travel between the monster and human world, it is a bit more tricky, or at least it was. You see, there's a metaphysical barrier called the seam that separates the monster world from the human world. It is both a geographical feature of the monster world and a weak point in the fabric between realities. The origin of why the seam only appears between the monster world and the human world is still unknown, as it contains aspects of our modern day physics that we just can't understand. This, for a while, made travel from the human world to the monster world virtually impossible for millions of years, until a man called Dr. Warden E. Spurritt changed everything. So who is Dr. Warden E. Spirit? He was the first known human to make contact with the monster world, making him the first ever monster handler. Accomplished in the fields of physics, nature, and an avid music lover, Dr. Spirit discovered the existence of the monster world and the multiverse when tinkering with an invention that detected unknown radio frequencies. Obsessed with meeting the beings creating the beautiful songs Dr. Spirit was hearing, he created a device called the Separating Existence Widget, or the SO, that was able to open and close the seam that separates the monster world from the human world. However, when making his first jump to the monster world, Dr. Warden E. Spirit lost hold of the device between the rift, the blank nothingness between the dimensions. It is there where the device has been stuck, randomly opening and closing portals to the monster world all over the human world until it will inevitably lose power. Though the location and duration of portals are random, it was Monster-Handler Matt who pinpointed somewhere in southwestern Ontario, Canada was a hotspot for the majority of the portals, hence why the BBB HQ was founded here. Using a trusty tracker in our portal indicating teleporter helmets, or as we call them, pith helmets, we are able to track down portals where they randomly pop up, and it gives us a rough estimate of the duration of the portal's time being open. This allows us to safely explore the monster world with ease and continue our ongoing human-monster programs like the exchange program that we have in place right now. Okay, we get it, you're the best at ping pong. However, Dr. Spirit did not have this technology because he just had a regular pith hat, and we have yet to track down his exact known location in the monster world, only having his journal and recordings as evidence of his presence there.
Do you feel as though you've seen everything there is to see in our world on this earth? Of course not. And we are talking about an entirely new world, only recently uncovered. We can only imagine what's out there to discover. No possibility can be ruled out any longer. As many puzzles as our world holds, this system of islands does not just present new pieces, but a whole new puzzle entirely.
So how is able to manipulate the metaphysics of the seam without the SO device? In my recent studies of the nature of Mythical Island and the dream space it resides in, I've theorized that the mythical monsters are able to perceive the rift itself when traveling to Mythical Island. They can actually literally see where the seam has been patched up by the SO device when the mythicals are traveling through the rift. And so it is believed that has somehow tapped into the power of the SO device and can use that power to pull interdimensional pranks.
This mythical is definitely way cooler and smarter than a certain monster handler who is forced to wear a hat because he's losing his... That does it!
I must remind you that this device will eventually lose power as it's been on for over 100 years already. But there is no need to fear because I'm actually working on a new device that will make interdimensional travel even easier. Though interdimensional travel is a complicated topic, so it might take me some time to figure out, though I do have reasons to believe that it has been done before, just not from this side. That is all for today, Handler Helpers, and comment below what lore you want me to deep dive into next. And as always, happy monstering! Hey Handler Helpers, it's me, Monster-Handler Tyson, coming to you with another episode of Quick Questions, the show where we answer your burning questions about the monster world. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them down in the comments below, and let's get started! Our first question is, have the monster handlers been able to figure out what exactly epic quibble is, and was time travel involved? And yes, we do know exactly what epic quibble is, and no time travel was required. We have managed to deduce that with 83% accuracy that we're 79% confident that epic quibble is in fact a red prismatic quibble, if a little faded from the sun, from the era of Dawn of Fire. We are still unsure of why this one prismatic monster is the only prismatic monster in the modern day monster world, but a leading theory is that the corkscrew-shaped lower body of the prismatic quibble helped to anchor it in the main dimension when the outer islands mysteriously disappeared at the end of Dawn of Fire. Our next question is, who drew the cave paintings found on Tribal Island? Now, for all its technological and cultural advancements, the preferred artistic medium of the Dawn of Fire was cave painting. Monsters of all species participated in the pictographic representation of their society and used it to record everything from exciting discoveries to everyday objects. They were very familiar with the cave network in the interior of the monster world, and this served as their gallery. A passageway from the centerpiece of Tribal Island led down to these caves to be rediscovered by monsters of the contemporary era. Our next question is, how does Uduk and Cantarell walk? Cantarells are actually not rooted in the ground, so they are able to waddle around pretty easily. Uduk, however, are rooted shallowly in the ground, but they are still able to use their arms to uproot themselves and move if they ever desire to change spots, though in Uduk, moving is a very rare occurrence. This question asks about the lore of the playground inside every Wubbox and if Galvana was the one who put it inside there. The playground, as seen in My Singing Monsters playground, is what monsters see and experience when they are placed into a Wubbox to activate it, giving the monsters a wonderland of games to play while in there. Though Galvana created Wubbox, it was actually the Wubbox itself that used its artificial intelligence to create the playground just because they wanted to give back to the monsters that helped it power up. This next question asks whether Zigrab is one creature or is it three separate creatures sharing the same brain, and they're also curious how their sleeping animation works, so let's get into it. The Zigrab is a monster that is divided into multiple interconnected bi-levels, or crab stacks as they're known anatomically. 2 in the monsterling form and 3 in the adult form. As the monster's bio and Dawn of Fire attest, it has a sweet and squashy inside, which is how the monster is able to telescope open and shut so easily. Telescoping shut as it sleeps to take advantage of its soundproof body chamber is the most comfortable way for a Zigrab to catch some Z's. See what I did there? Because Zigrab starts with the Z. You know what? Forget it. Moving on. Now, our next question is, do the quads ever get together and hang out? Now, the quads are known as the bosses of their respective islands, which understandably is a full-time job for them, so the majority of their time is spent on their home islands. It is known, however, that natural quads will occasionally have a video conference to discuss improvements of the natural islands, though I'm sure they spend a lot of time just chatting as well during those calls. Though we can't forget there are plenty of opportunities to hang out on Gold Island when they focus their consciousness on the higher plane. Now, our next question is, why does Hollow hide their identity? Is it for an evil purpose, or is it just a personal choice? Now, like a lot of humans on the human world, Hollow experiences stage fright when showing off their musical talent. So, to give it a little more confidence, the magical monster hides away in a hollowed out log. Rare Hollow is perhaps a little more comfortable actively inviting other monsters to stare at its azure wooded disguise to simulate the actual blue sky. Our next question is, how does Heh produce sound? Unlike most creatures where the strongest muscles in the body is a tongue, Hehe's strongest muscles are found in their ears. They're able to vibrate their inner ear muscles to make sound along with the air coming from their lungs. And yes, you did hear me right, Hehe's ears are also connected to their lungs as well. Now, this next question I know has caused a lot of debate in the MSM community, and that is, does Mushaboom have a nose or does it have a beak? Now, Mushaboom has a very unique feature called the rostronasus, which acts as both a beak and a nose. It's got a tough outer shell that has nares or nostrils used for smelling, but these openings are also unique to act as mouths of the monster when it's ingesting treats. It's kind of gross, but the Mushaboom doesn't seem to mind. Now, behind the scenes, if you really needed to settle an argument with a fellow handler helper, the sprite used on Mushaboom is called VWY Nose. Our last question is, how fast do Bogart horns grow? Now, they grow relatively fast, but it depends on the quality and consistency of the mud piles they're standing in during the growth. Looser and shiftier mud accelerates full horn growth to just under a day, but these are more prone to snapping and breakage when they are converted to the monster's instrument. Harder packed, drier mud elongates the horn growing process to anywhere from 3 days to a week, but they are much more sturdier and can be relied on for several months of use. Alright, handler helpers, those are going to be all the questions I want to answer today. I hope you enjoyed. Please comment below if you have any other questions or ask them on our next MSM Live. And as always, happy monstering! Hey! Hey Handler Helpers, it's me, Monster-Handler Tyson, coming to you with another episode of Quick Questions, the show where we answer your burning questions about the monster world. Now, before we get started, I did want to confirm one thing, and that is, which islands did Vane go to for Echoes of Eco? Now, I can confirm that they went to Sugarbush, and you know what? Why doesn't Past Tyson tell us the other one? Did it travel to Plant, Cold, and Amber Island? Oh, what is Amber Island? Thanks, Past Tyson. This makes me super excited for Perplexport, where Spirit goes. Our first question is Bookworm and Ma related? Now, in episode 2 of Quick Questions, I did confirm that Bookworm evolved to have a mouth behind its head so it could read and eat at the same time without getting crumbs on its precious books. There is no evidence that points to a link between the two, so with that being said, this is most likely an example of a convergent evolution, making Ma and Bookworm not related. Our next question is, how do monsters with instruments get their instruments? Now, for instrumental monsters, it is a case-by-case basis. For a riff monsterling, it is first given an artificial guitar to watch over before it enters a symbiotic relationship with a living guitar later in its life. Where this living guitar comes from is still a mystery, however, it is not always the case for other monsters. Kongals, for instance, recycle the egg they hatch from and reuse it as their instrument. The Bogar is an example of a monster that is able to grow its instrument from its body, as stated in Quick Questions episode 5. Sure, and Shiftier Mud accelerates full horn growth to just under a day, but these are more prone to snapping and breakage when they are converted to the monster's instrument. And then there's instrumental monsters like Tapricorn, who simply have to go out and find 2 sticks to play with. Similar to how goats instantly start walking as soon as they are born, Tapricorn kids instantly start searching for sticks when they are hatched. Our next question is, how does Callus walk? Now, it does not take off its cradle, nor does it float with the power of Dreamcraft. It actually just butt scooches. I know you're waiting for a more in-depth answer, but it just butt scooches. Like, scooches on its butt, on the ground. That doesn't do anything cool, really. Just kind of scooches away on the ground. Everyone's just walking on their feet, and then you just see Callus just scooching about. Could it do those other things? Probably. Who knows? But it butt scooches. Our next question is, what do Wubblins feel before waking up and while waking up? Before receiving the spark of life when Wubblins are awakened, they simply don't remember anything, as they are technically just statues and don't exist as beings yet. They are simply just works of art. However, in the moment of awakening, Wubblins first feel a massive surge of electricity that immediately jumpstarts their desire to make music. Kind of think of it as jumpstarting a car. Our last question is Anglo and Fangler related? Now, this is a great question, and despite their similarities, no, they are not related at all. Anglo actually hails from a distant planet in the cosmos and is the closest thing to an alien that the monster world has. Fangler is a singing monster native to the monster world that was created by the Colossals to inhabit the main dimension. Fanglers tend to be more pelagic, meaning dwelling away from the seafloor, and Anglos are more benthic, dwelling closer to or right on the seafloor. We did include a little Easter egg in the Trench of the Works video related to Fangler, its ability to withdraw its legs when startled, first seen in My Singing Monsters Playground. Alright, Handler Helpers, those are going to be all the questions I'm going to answer for today. Now, if you have your own questions, theories, or any topics you want me to deep dive in a future episode, please comment down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy monstering! Hey, Handler Helpers, it's me, Monster-Handler Tyson, coming to you with the final episode of Quick Questions Season 1. Now, you're all probably wondering,
no, but Tyson, does this mean you're leaving? Or Tyson, does this mean Quick Questions is gone forever?
In which I'll respond,
don't fret, Handler Helpers, I will be back with Season 2 eventually, so get excited for that.
With that being said, let's enjoy the season finale of Quick Questions by answering these questions. Our first question is the common Wubbox the only Wubbox that can create life forms, or can the rare Wubbox also do this? Now, unlike its common counterpart that loves creation, the rare Wubbox loves adventuring, as stated in its Firehaven bio. A rare Wubbox comes into being when a common Wubbox first travels to the human world to explore other dimensions and to learn about human uses of electricity. So a rare Wubbox really doesn't have a desire to create anything, it would rather explore. It could be possible for a rare Wubbox to create life forms, but it just doesn't seem to be where its interests lie. Now, our next question is, can bellfish talk or can it only make accordion sounds? Now, in order to get out of the aqua slime pools of Ethereal Island, bellfish have to wear a crystal-powered mechanized suit. Within the suits are artificial lungs that attach to its respiratory system that fill with air whenever its arms are stretched out. It then exhales the air when it pushes the accordion arms in, allowing the air to escape its mouth, making the sound we all know and love. Not sure if it can use its mouth to talk though. Now, our next question is, what would Strombonen do if Strombone were to go missing? Now, Strombonens are known to have a stoic and wandering spirit. If in the unfortunate event a Strombonen were to be separated from its companion Strombone, I'm sure it would search high and low until it found them again, keeping the discipline to never give up. Now, our next question is there a word for a certain group of monsters? For example, fire monsters. Now, if you have a bunch of different kinds of fire monsters together, that is known as a bonfire. See what I did there? Because bond, fire instead of bonfire, bond. Now, our next question is, how does Toejammer make its sound? Now, as a water ethereal, it has a gelatinous and rubbery body that they can vibrate, and they can focus those vibrations by making different shapes with their mouths. This specific aquatic resonance is actually said to be able to travel vast distances through the water, and especially through unique waters of the living ocean. Now, our next question is, what are monsters allergic to? Now, we do have a very similar commonality on the human world, and that is many monsters share a pollen allergy. A more obvious example would be Vivane, who uses this allergy to its advantage, incorporating the sneezes they elicit from their wingling companions into song. One specific example of a monster world allergy not medically observed in the monster world, winks are allergic to bad vibes. Our next question is Potbelly and Cantarell related? Now, all singing monsters aren't related, being, singing monsters, but just like the human world, monsters also fall into different classes. Here on Earth, plants and fungi are not a part of the same class. Plants are producers, using energy from the sun to make seeds, cones, and spores to reproduce, while fungi are decomposers that break down decaying matter. If I had to classify, I would say potbellies are more in common with plants and Cantarell more with fungi. However, if they were to meet, it seems like they would have a lot of common ground to talk about. Our final question is the seasonal spirit and Dr. Warden E-Spirit the same individual? Now, it definitely seems like the seasonal spirit does have a lot in common with its namesake, but something that throws a wrench into the theory that Spirit was once Dr. Warden E-Spirit is that more than one specimen of Spirit has been observed living in the monster world. Now, how does one explain that? I don't think it's a mystery we'll have time to solve during this inaugural Perplexplore, but maybe sometime in the future. Alright, Handler Helpers, those are going to be all the questions I'm going to answer for the Season 1 finale of Quick Questions. And with that being said, happy monstering! Hello, Handler Helpers, it's me, Monster-Handler Tyson, and welcome to Season 2 of Quick Questions, the show where we answer your burning questions about the monster world. Maybe questions like, is Tweedle the actual size of an ostrich? And well, I would say...
yes.
Now, let's get into our first question, shall we? Now, this first person brings up how Thrumble has claws very similar to some animals in the human world that are good at digging and climbing and all sorts of things. And they're wondering if they do similar things like these animals or if they use their claws for something completely different. In which I would say, yes, they actually do very similar things because Thrumbles are very good at climbing. They share many similarities with the human world's three-toed sloth, as they both share 3 long clawed fingers and actually move quite alike as well. But Thrumbles are much quicker. Even though a Thrumble's neck can naturally elongate to survey its surroundings, it does like to climb in order to get the best vantage point. Common Thrumbles do have an additional helpful edge for climbing compared to their rare and epic counterparts, as their feet act as a natural suction cup to aid them if they are climbing something maybe a little too sheer. Although their suction cup feet are nowhere nearly as developed as Scups. This next question asks, how are bone elementals able to live? Are their insides inside their bones, or are they just together because of magic because they're magical monsters? And does this apply to Bon Appetit, the Weblin? Alright, so bones in the human world mostly contain calcium and bone marrow, which if you didn't know is where your blood cells come from. Like in the human world, bones represent the foundation and structure of many singing monsters' bodies, including the bone elementals. But how those bones interact with their other bodily systems is difficult for us to understand. Maybe some monsters do have their insides stuffed in their bones, working like an exoskeleton. Maybe others do have flesh, but it's invisible or not perceivable to our eyes. Now, how does this all work? Magic, of course. Bone is a magical element. As for Bon Appetit, seeing how it's a synthetic being created by Wobox, it is safe to say that it's the element of electricity that is coursing through it that powers its essence. Now, to say Bon Appetit has no internal systems is probably wrong, but I can confirm that they work much differently than the bone elementals. This next question asks, are Screamu's branches actually attached to them, and if so, do they make them uncomfortable? Now, I can confirm that Screamu does have them attached, but they are perfectly comfortable, so do not fret. Though, the branches do serve another purpose. You see, Screamus actually don't have ears, so they can't hear what pitch they are singing at. So they use vibrations from their branches to determine which pitch they are on. For example, if they sing at a low pitch, the lower branch slightly vibrates, which indicates to them what pitch they are on. Additionally, like furcorns, Screamus are actually quite jumpy, so they don't like when other wublins sneak up on them, so their branches act as another sense in a way to make sure that no one or no thing are sneaking up on them. Our next question is common Wobox on water island weaker than its on-land counterparts? In which the answer is no, they are actually just as strong. Living ocean water does not have the same effect on technology as human world water would. So you can drop your phone in the living ocean 100 times and it will not break. I would not recommend trying this in the human world though, no matter how waterproof your phone says it is. Our next question asks, are Epic Bogart's horns edible, and are the puddles they stand in drinkable? Now, for those of you who do not know, Bogarts that stand in melted ice cream puddles actually turn into Epic Bogarts because of the sugar rush. Quoting our Monster-Handler journals, the composition of Epic Bogart's horns is altered at a chemical level, growing into gnarled up spires until they break off like peanut brittle. Note the word like. Now they may break like peanut brittle, but that does not mean they are edible. As for the melted ice cream puddles they stand in, they are drinkable, I guess, but it would probably be more enjoyable frozen in a cone. This next question asks, are Sneasler and Flugel related because they both produce sound using their nose? Now, there must be some sort of common DNA in there because, as you pointed out, both fire monsters make use of their snouts to produce their music. Another trait that unites these two is that, especially in their youth, their noses cause them to be overly snotty and sniffly, so having a tissue or a soft leaf nearby is always essential. So other than that, in their fire elemental heritage, Sneasler and Flugel aren't especially closely related. Okay, so this next question asks, is ToeJammer actually a ethereal? Now, in the season 1 finale of Quick Questions, I did say that ToeJammer was a water ethereal. Our next question is, how does ToeJammer make its sound? Now, as a water ethereal, it has a... Is that true? No, because I meant to say water elemental. Moving on! This next question asks, if pom-poms aren't removable, then how did they get them? Well, pom-poms, try saying that 10 times fast, actually grow within the egg with them. They act as additional cushions for the little monsterling to make sure they are extra protected in their egg. Once they hatch, Pom-Pom then repurposes these cushions into pom-poms to make sure all the monsters around them notice their moves and cheer. This next question asks, how much food does N-Brat eat in a day? N-Brats eat roughly 641 pounds of treats in a day. So imagine if you ate 320 and a half whole pizzas in a day all to yourself. That is what an N-Brat does. But always remember that treats in the monster world are actually high in nutrition, so do not worry because N-Brat is nice and healthy. Our final question asks, did Galvana program in Wobox the need to collect data outside of the monster world to become rare Wobox? Now, Galvana did not program this into Wobox because over time the Wobox's AI began to simply crave adventure and wanted to learn more about the worlds in the ever-expanding multiverse. Alright, Handler Helpers, that concludes the episode 1 of season 2 of Quick Questions. If you do have any questions that you might want to get answered in the next episode, please leave them in the comments down below. And as always, happy monstering! Boop, 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 boop. Hey, baby, my name's Furcord. Nice to meet you. Boop, boop, boop. Hi, very good. Hey everyone, it's me, Monster-Handler Tyson, and welcome to Quick Questions, the show where we answer your burning questions about the monster world. Let's get started. Our first question asks, can gnarls attach itself to anything, or does it have to be organic? And if so, can it attach itself to other monsters? Firstly, to answer the question of if a gnarls can attach to anything, no, it has to attach to something organic, as these parasitic vines are symbiotic in nature. Now, could they attach themselves to other monsters? Theoretically, maybe, but I assume they choose not to, as it would be rather rude to do that to your friends. Plus, regular plants are a much better option for a pair of gnarls, as both the tree and gnarls can help each other absorb even more sunlight when together, benefiting both parties. Our next question asks, can a dream mythical exist outside of the dream space? And the answer to that is no, they would disappear. This is mainly because they would lose the magic of dreamcraft provided by the catalyst, who also can only exist in the dream space. This next question asks, which mouth does Eurik use when eating? Now, you might be shocked to hear this, but they actually use both mouths. Treats first enter the bigger mouth, where it grinds up the treats into crumbs, and then once that is done, the smaller mouth is the one that actually does the ingesting of the treats. Another cool fact about Eurik's bigger mouth is that it actually acts like a filter. You see, Euriks are picky eaters at times and like treats pretty plain. For example, when eating a cupcake, the bigger mouth is able to filter out the sprinkles so they can spit them out afterwards. Our next question asks, how are sponge and toe jammer able to think and essentially live if they don't have a brain or internal organs? Just like the species of jellyfish we find here in the human world, toe jammer and sponge possesses a net of nerves instead of a brain. So think of it as, instead of having one central brain, their brain, in a sense, is spread out all throughout their body, allowing them to move, feel, and of course, sing like any other monster. This next question I've been dying to answer, and it asks, how long are nerves? Nerves, optic nerves we see when it pulls out of its head to make music, are much longer than you think. If laid out in a straight line, optic nerves measure to about 17 feet or 5 meters. Now, if you think that sounds impossible, humans have a similar measurement in our bodies, as our small intestines measure to about 22 feet or 7 meters. So trust me, it's completely plausible. Our next question is, can scar-tar fly? Now, a bizarre fact I can share is we've actually never seen a scar-tar fly. They are just so preoccupied with the good vibes on the ground, they just don't feel the need to leave it. This next person points out that T-Rox has a construction vibe to them, so they ask, do they help out with building stuff? T-Rox's jaw and feet do resemble excavators. This does mean that T-Roxes are great when tackling a construction project, especially when it comes to digging. T-Roxes in general also love digging for fun as well, though they always need to make sure they aren't digging into a dipster's burrow. Our final question asks, what if Mimic has been in the modern monster world this whole time and they've just been mimicking another monster? Huh. I've actually never thought of that as a possibility. Huh. Alright, Handler Helpers, those are going to be all the questions I want to answer for this episode of Quick Questions. If you have some quick questions of your own, please comment down below. And as always, happy monstering!